Welcome to the Westside Investors Network, WIN, your community of investing knowledge for growth. This is the Real Estate Professionals Investing Podcast for real estate professionals by real estate professionals. This show is focused on the next step in your career, investing. Thank you for listening. And please, if you like our content, rate us on your podcast provider. Just a quick disclaimer, the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are for educational purposes only and should not be construed as an offer to buy or sell any shares or securities, make or consider any investments, or take any other action.
Awesome. This is our second little podcast series. We just chatted about the Southwest 68th disposition, and in a few of our conversations, Sean and I thought, hey, we need to come up with stages for where each of our syndications are at, and then be able to give a detailed description and understanding of each stage and what our goals and what we're trying to do, and how do we know when we've moved to the next stage. And so today we're going to talk about acquiring a property, or the acquisition stage. And then as well, we're going to talk about the stabilization stage, or just kind of the value add stage.
Yeah, one of the benefits of Uptown Syndication is the fact that we're vertically integrated and have a property management team. And this kind of came up due to the fact that we have different goals, and it is a very confusing thing to explain to our team if they don't know about what stage a property is in, because we may be asking them to maybe increasing rents at a significant amount, or maybe we're not doing much, but that can be confusing. Like what is the owner's goal in this specific property? So.
And honestly, when I first started property management, that the owner's goals was basically the whole purpose of property management is to achieve the owner's goals. And so part of good property management is understanding what the owner's goals are. And so at Uptown Properties, we do quarterly check-ins. It's just, each quarter, like, I feel like we can give kind of a moving target goal for the team as we're shifting through these stages. So if we can just keep everyone like aware of exactly what we're trying to achieve, and then okay, now that we've done our value add, now we're really focused on occupancy, or we're really focused on increasing our rents and implementing RUBS, and and we can focus on occupancy in the stabilization stage. So yeah, just a little interesting piece.
Yeah, it's been helpful so far as we kind of explain it. So we figured spend some time talking through that here. And one of the most exciting aspects of a deal, I feel, is the acquisition.
Yeah.
And very versed within that, Chris. And so kind of exploring that, like finding a deal is super fun. You were checking out one today, checking out new deals all the time, and stuff comes through. But how do you create that funnel, and how do you find deals? Like how does it start as we start off the acquisition phase?
Yeah.
And that's a broad question. So
finding deals, it's to start out, it's tough to get deals in front of you. And when we started out, most of the deals that we found were on the regional multiple listing service. So we scoured the RMLS, and we were really lucky to come in at a time when there were a lot of bank-owned properties and a lot of supply. And so we were able to kind of pick and choose and haggle and negotiate with the bank who really wanted stuff off their balance sheet. And so that was a good start. I mean, not buying apartments, but buying single family homes. And so, but then we were kind of able to build up a little bit of a track record. And that is a huge thing when it comes to finding deals. Being able to present a broker with with your execution and what you've been able to close on. And, it's like, hey, I've been able to buy, this 40 unit or this 47 unit property. Like, that says a lot about your ability to be able to do what you say you're going to do. So if I put out an offer for a 60 unit property, and I have a 47 and a 40 unit in my portfolio, that's higher credibility than someone who has not closed on a multifamily property before. And so most of the time, when somebody gets, when a broker gets an offer from an unknown, they will look at it very skeptically. And so, and as well, like a lot of times they are really only shopping deals to a few like trusted buyers who can close, because probably one of the worst things that a real estate broker can do is present an offer to their seller when they aren't sure that it's going to close. And as well, depending on who the seller is, like they may lose that business. Like they may lose the listing if they aren't presenting like actual viable options. And so in the first probably couple months of getting a new listing, a broker is going to be shopping, their list full of pocket buyers to see if they can get a deal done with somebody who they know that can close on it. And as well, they want to double end the commission. So they want both, they want the listing agents. I mean, you're talking 2% on, like a $10 million deal. Like
that adds up.
Well, 2% on one side and then 2% on the other side, that's 200 grand. Like it's a significant amount of money. And, that will make one multifamily broker's like, that will pay their rent for their office and then some for the year if they could just get one of those done. And so
so started on the RMLS with the first deals, but over time it sounds like building relationships, connecting with brokers, and having that track record has really led to success. And then I imagine finding some deals coming through your inbox and maybe some text messages with those deals
I mean, there's a vertical email too, as a commercial like listserv deals or people looking for deals. So that's another opportunity. I mean, LoopNet, and we say that that's where deals go to die because they're so bad they have to go on LoopNet. or people are just putting their deals that they have in contract that are going to close. So, some stuff on LoopNet is already sold and it's just up there because the brokers want to advertise that they're doing deals.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, and so being a property manager too, we've gotten a couple deals from clients who are just like, like we want out, we're done. Like, let's go do something else. And so we're like, oh, hey, we'll buy it from you. And, word of mouth. I have bought a couple properties from acquaintances or from an acquaintance friend. Like, so it's just talking with people and making connections and relationships.
Yeah, I've heard saying that you're a real estate investor to folks helps, opportunities sometimes pop up when that's mentioned.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, let's say we've found a deal we like.
Exactly.
We found one. We found one. We think we found one, I guess.
We found one on the RMLS.
Yeah, we found one.
Let's say it's 10 units on Southeast Stark.
That sounds like a very realistic opportunity for us. Very excited about that deal. That's going to be a ton of fun to work on here soon. More to come on that one. But talk us through your underwriting process. Key metrics, and I'm still learning this process as well, but what are some key metrics or things that, really make a deal look attractive? And, where do you sometimes get conservative to like kind of hedge your bets a little bit on a deal? But walk us through the underwriting.
Like my napkin rule has a pretty high bar. So, I mean, napkin rule, essentially, like I want to be able to underwrite the deal on a napkin. And for me, it's just kind of a glance of the eye. First off, I check the map. I want to know exactly where the property is and if it's in a location that I'm interested in. and especially these days, I'm looking for A+ locations. Like in the past couple years, we have kind of branched out a little farther than we've wanted to for opportunities. And, now we're operating those deals and Sean's having to drive out to Cornelius. And there's, yes, we're going to make some money on those deals. We're going to learn a lot on those deals, but it's a lot of effort and energy to get those stabilized. So first things first, I am looking at the location and I want a good location, especially now that the market is kind of contracted and it really is a buyer's market. And then secondly, the napkin rule. I'm looking for the purchase price to be 1% of what I think I can get for rents. So the purchase price plus my CapEx that I'm putting into the property. So I want, if it's 10 units on Stark, I want to be buying that property for whatever the price is plus repairs. I want that to equal 1% of the rent roll. Or am I saying that right? I want the rent roll to equal 1% of the purchase price. So if I believe that I can get $15,000 a month from that property, then I want my all-in cost on that property to be 1.5 million.
Yeah.
And that's my napkin rule. I'm gonna put pen to paper if it's pretty close to that. And so yeah.
Because property taxes, insurance is kind of like a wild card sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, like, insurers have left the market and then new insurers have come in. I mean, there's good, there's reasonably priced insurance here. We really only plan on catastrophic insurance. So if something catastrophic happens, we want to be insured for that. But otherwise, we're not planning on filing any claims.
Yeah, we're fixing it.
Yeah.
So we're getting in there.
Yep. Wade through the crap.
Yeah. And there's been some deals. I'm aware of one just recently where we were in contract with them and a great location. And then, I think through the underwriting and then actually seeing the physical property, we made some adjustments.
We're on inspection, we're making adjustments, and then also in the past, I don't know, year and a half, we're really learning more about this Portland market that, where vacancy is 7 or 8%. That is a very different market than 10 years ago and just like the last 10 years in general. And so when a tenant has there's 40,000 units in the MSA. So when a tenant has the option of 3,000 or 4,000, 3,000 different units to move into, basically they can go anywhere. If they want to move, they can go anywhere they want. And most of the time, tenants are moving from properties that have shared laundry to properties that don't have shared laundry. And single family homes and kind of suburb garden style properties with washer and dryer that are clean have significantly lower lower vacancy than properties that have shared laundry facilities and smaller unit sizes. So
yeah, it's definitely a space that we've been exploring further. And I think is a great kind of segue into what we're talking about next. But it's kind of exploring and at the acquisition phase, kind of do plan what value add you're going to do for the property. How do you think you balance that with, rent increases, the purchase price, and maybe you talked about it previously, the 1% rule, making sure the maths. And I think there's a few deals we've done that have been more value add than others. But curious, maybe your thoughts on value add and how you write that into an acquisition and when risk enters the equation for those deals.
Risk, when risk enters in. Okay, so
You know,
that was a few questions. So,
Yeah.
okay. So you're asking, how do I calculate value add? How do I put together,
Yes.
what I think it is a budget number? And I mean, honestly, like what I'm trying to do with my inspection and, like going through the property with the inspector, I'm trying to acquire the property at the lowest possible basis possible, like without, irregardless of what I think the budget is, I'm trying to get in to the property at the lower the basis is, the lower the risk is for an investor. Because, it doesn't matter what you bought it for when you're selling it. Like when we sold Southwest 68th, we bought that for 1.1 million, 1.125, and we sold it for 2 million. No one asked us what we bought it for when we sold that property. And we could have sold it probably for 2.4 million if we sold it at the right time. The lender definitely asks you what you bought it for and how much money you have into it when you go to refinance, but not when you go to sell.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So getting it at the lowest basis possible is key, because that protects you the most.
Mhm.
And then as far as putting the budget together, like it's really hard to figure out exactly, what you have to do, what's optional, what is worth, where you're going to earn your ROI, where you're going to be pulling out. I mean, when you're looking at it, you want to be, every dollar you invest, you probably want to be getting $3 or $4 out, because of that leverage factor. Like, every dollar that you raise in a syndication, like our goal is to be paying out $2.50 or $3 when we do a deal. Like we want to, so if we're going to spend $1, like we want the return on equity to be, similar.
Yeah. Well, that's substantial.
Yeah. And, just looking at cap rates and whatnot, like but the thing is that when you're talking about, okay, is it going to increase rent? Yes. Then if it's something that's going to increase rent, like I think it's a 20 to 1. Like if you spend $1, or if you get $1 in rent increase, you can spend $20 on that $1. And so if you're going to get 8 cents, you can spend $20 on it if you're going to, like, per month. So yeah.
And now here's a word from our sponsor.
Get things done while you're on the move. Learn more about working with a virtual assistant through Offsite Professionals. It's a great way to get all the things done that you need to get done. Have freedom in your time and streamline your life by automating your business. Stop spending time on the tasks that you can delegate and start spending more time on your superpower. Call us today at 503-446-3177 or visit our website at offsiteprofessionals.com.
Uptown Syndication is now offering a syndication coaching program for you to take your real estate portfolio to the next level. This is your opportunity to have experienced syndicators, AJ and Chris Shepard, coach you on your way to controlling your real estate investing future. Our coaching program will provide you with the tools and framework needed to begin syndicating real estate in your target market. Go to uptownsyndication.com today to learn more.
Hey, let me ask you, what if tax season was actually exciting? I know, sounds crazy, but not when you've got the right playbook. At MyMoneyWorksForMe.com, we put together the Pro Tax Strategies playbook that real estate professionals use that you may not know about. You'll learn how to crush taxes with depreciation and rep status, how to stack smart write-offs from the Augusta rule to vehicles, and the ultimate wealth hack, 1031 exchanges, and vacation rentals. It's free, it's powerful, and it's waiting for you at mymoneyworksforme.com, because your money should work as hard as you do.
Yeah, so the value add in terms of what you're putting into it, we want to make sure you get money out, and that's done in acquisition. And I'm finding out too, the budgeting of all the deals, it's really front loaded, and at the acquisition phase, you're kind of planning out what that's going to look like and be ready to. Some of the deals look different in terms of whether it's a front loaded value add, or sometimes it may occur down later in a season, shall we say, still within the stabilization period. However, it may not be right off the bat.
Yeah,
How the asset comes to you.
The timeline and like the goal of repositioning a property can be different.
Mm-hmm.
So we have 2 deals right now where we're going to be getting a lot of vacant units.
Mm-hmm.
And planning out, we call those F turnovers, where we're going to go through and do cabinets, countertops, bathrooms, like all sorts of, like floors, full paint, replacing windows, etc. Like, a lot of times you'll get a property and it's 100% occupied, and you have to, and the value add plan is like, okay, rents are insanely low at this property, so we need to increase rents. Okay, and then let's bill back utilities too. And so and we're still, 25 or 30% below the market. We bought a deal in 2024 in Milwaukee, and no one has moved from that property, and we have increased rents twice and implemented RUBS, and we are still like $400 a month below the market, all of those units. And it's, and so like our literally our value add plan is just like, okay, we're going to raise rents until people move, and then we're going to do a nice turnover.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously we don't want to like jack it up so high that everybody moves all at once, because I don't think that that's in the budget, but we do want to save a little bit of cash to kind of do, them one at a time. So
yeah, and add value to the property too.
Yeah, and that property is kind of still in stabilization phase, even though we like haven't really done anything.
I know, purchased 2 years ago.
Yeah,
which is interesting. That's a ton of potential there, and it is interesting, and
it's just kind of in a waiting stage. Like, but as we add value to it, because we are, implementing solid management practices, like sending notices when notices need to be sent, resolving issues, providing services and communication to tenants, like, and letting them pay online. Like,
yes. And also, yeah,
that's kind of basic.
We're still trying to add value, even though, the original plan maybe is not in place, as getting fences in the space. But
yeah,
let's one more question around the acquisition and around leverage. Something I'm specifically curious about. How do you determine the right amount of leverage in terms of down payment, or, on a specific deal like that thought process? I'd love to learn more about.
Well, you want to know what you can refinance property for. And so, if you're planning a heavy value add, I guess I immediately assumed the question was kind of related to the 2 deals that we've got coming up, where we're using bridge financing, like short-term financing, so that we can stabilize or do a value add to the property and then get permanent debt. When you go into a property and you get permanent debt, you just want to get as much debt as you possibly can, because when we're syndicating deals, bank financing is significantly cheaper than funds raised. Like, we're only going to pay the bank back, like maybe $1.25 on a dollar, whereas we're looking to pay investors back like $2.50 to $3. So we're able to provide, take that $1.25 from the bank and give it to our investors when we get more bank financing.
Yeah,
On the permanent side. On the bridge side, we need to be very conservative so that we don't take too much money. And then we're not able to refinance the property. So most of the time, a hard money lender is going to be looking at the deal too and saying but then again, they don't care. If they are willing, able, and to acquire the property at 90 cents on the dollar, if they think you're getting a good deal on it and they'll loan you 90%, they don't care if you don't make the payments. They'll just take the property at a lower basis. So they'll get into it at 90% and then, hope that you've done some renovations to it, and then they can get permanent financing on it and have a property manager manage it. So that's, there are hard money lenders out there who want you to fail. And so it is a risky element. And so that is why I am super conservative, and I don't want to take too much money, because the more money that you take, the more that the capital stack on top of that is at risk.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Any other things you want to share about the acquisition phase? There's a lot that goes into it. From finding the deal, then underwriting the deal, then checking the deal out, getting into contract, the inspection process, and
coming up with a schedule and a timeline is key. Oh, all right, we're back. Ooh, a little blurry. There we go. Okay. Exciting times. All right, so we just talked about the right amount of leverage, and now we are going to get into stabilization and essentially, day one, the value add plan after you close on a property.
We've acquired it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a big day.
We closed. We're celebrating. We got a lot of happy investors. They're super excited about their new investment.
There's less money in our pockets.
Wow.
For the moment.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, maybe. Well, we've got all the CapEx funds.
That's true. Yeah. We need to start spending some more money.
There'll be less money tomorrow.
Yeah.
And the day after.
Yeah. So
because we raised the right amount of money for the project, and now we've got to get the work started.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, make every dollar work for us to have it put out 2 to 3. So let's talk about the stabilization phase where, we've had these under market value potential rents and property that may not be.
Yeah. And so, let's talk value add. Yep. So value add is what we do here at Uptown Properties and Uptown Syndication. And there's 2 types of value add. You can level up the property management, and then you can do construction to the property and improve it. There's many different levels of construction. We mainly stick in the realm of cosmetic. We're generally not trying to pull permits on properties and doing major renovations, although we do have one of those that we're working on.
We do.
But we're mainly looking for cosmetic improvements and then property management value add. So on day one, we're generally implementing the property management value add business plan, and we'll have decided exactly how we're going to add value. We want to get out our lease documents. Yeah, we're not providing tenants with new leases, but we are going to provide them with new rules. Essentially, you're allowed to change the rules, like the house rules, with 30 days notice. And so as long as it's not a major change to the lease, essentially providing more information about, like pest control or, the mold and mildew addendums, essentially letting tenants know, hey, we need you to keep your property or your unit below a certain humidity. Otherwise, mold and mildew can grow. And, we don't want that to happen. And so we say that it's not allowed in our lease, and that's a house rule. And then parking rules, and then all types of addendums that we're able to implement to just give more information and make everything a little bit more clear. And as well, introduce ourselves as the new property manager, and and we'll have inspected units already at this point. And so we'll know, if we need to do re-inspections or if we need to issue notices for issues that we've seen in units, like if units are extremely dirty, or if there's maybe a tenant who has too much stuff and you can't really walk through their unit, or if we weren't allowed access to a unit, then those units will get notices, and so that we can use our property management skills to level up the property and make it a nicer place to live.
You bring up a good point that not only is it about a value add to the property physically, but also to the tenants. Like the leasing aspect is a huge piece of it. And something that we've done in our properties is, ask tenants what works well. And, we potentially have a value add plan, but also sometimes, try to implement thoughts from, our tenants as well.
I mean, and we're also providing, a tenant portal where tenants can pay online, or many different varieties, like to make things more convenient.
Yeah.
And then we kind of get into the construction value add. And the construction value add is where you can really do some major improvements to a property, a coat of paint and some landscaping, and making the parking lot look nice can really spruce up a property. And so those are types of things that we do during the stabilization phase, putting in new LVT floor, sprucing up maybe new cabinets, appliances, bath fixtures, electrical fixtures, like just kind of, interior paint, all sort, like blinds, all sorts of stuff like that. And so that's more of your construction value add. And those are things that happen during stabilization, but this stabilization phase is like, it is a period of turmoil or transition for a property, because we are coming in and making changes, and these changes are disruptive. It's a disruptive force on a community that, probably doesn't want to be disrupted. It's like entropy. Most, apartment complexes don't want to be acted upon by an outside force. And each and every reaction is going to cause an equal reaction. And so, maybe it's not an equal reaction, but like everything that we do generally is going to receive some sort of response from, the community. And it takes a little while for it to stabilize. And that's why we call it the stabilization phase. There's going to be higher vacancy. And, we're coming in to the property with goals for rent and goals for utility bill back that, generally we're not going to be able to hit in the first couple of years, depending on the size. I think I said that wrong. Generally, that we're not going to be able to, depending on the scope. Some will be able to complete in 6 months, and some, like that one property where no one has moved, we're not able to do the cosmetic remodel to the interior units to get rents up, as high as we want them, because no one's moved, and we don't want, turnover and vacancy are very expensive, and we're trying to operate our properties at the best with the best cash flow possible. And so, once we kind of decide that, like, okay, the CapEx budget has been utilized, but we know that we're going to have some CapEx in the future, then we'll hang on to a little bit of the budget, but also some of the CapEx will need to be funded out of the cash flow of the property. And that's where a lot of operators get into these difficult situations, because if the leverage is too high and the interest rate's too high, you're not able to fund any CapEx out of operating or out of net operating income or cash flow. It's out of cash flow. And if you're not able to fund any of that, then you don't have any funds for CapEx. And then at that point, you're going to have dilapidated units, potentially down units, and it's, can turn into, a kind of a bad cycle, spiral. And so, we're making sure that there's plenty of cash flow for our properties, and that, we don't want to have to fund CapEx out of cash flow, but we can if we desperately need to.
Yeah, and the stabilization phase just looks so different per property. Like we mentioned, one where we haven't been able to do some of the plans that we anticipated doing. However, we're stepping into one next month where, we have access to 3 units, and it's going to be immediate value add, and, no displacement in that space, and provide great places for people to live, which are not looking that great right now. So just immediate value add to the community there. But you bring up that there is a reaction sometimes when change occurs, and it's natural in a lot of ways. Sometimes it happens when you don't see the end in mind, or it disrupts the way of life that you're expecting to live. And I think in the stabilization phase too, we've taken on some challenges that previous owners don't want to deal with, which is being diligent within the leasing space is really key within that. Whether it is tenants who may not be paying their rents, or, and in Oregon, the legal process going about that, that's a piece as well in terms of stabilization as you work through the challenges at the various properties in Maryland. Just so different.
Yep.
So talking about unit renovation, we kind of talked a little bit about what it looks like, but it can range too. So based on all the properties, typical renovation, what do you think are some key points or things that Uptown Syndication is looking at for future units?
Improving the landscaping and getting the exterior grounds looking the best that they possibly can. We want that first impression of the property to be the best it possibly can, and better than when we receive the property. And so, whether it's exterior paint, landscaping cleanup, parking lots, we want, when somebody drives up to the property, to have the best curb appeal that it possibly can.
Immediate kind of easy.
And those exterior spruce ups are the easiest that you can possibly do, because you don't have to displace anyone to do it. And as far as a reaction from that, there is generally good positive reactions from doing that, and generally negative reactions to rent increases and REVS implementation. So, but we do really want, if we're going to be increasing rents, we want to be improving the property and, making it a better place to live, improving the neighborhood, and, all in all, adding value.
Yeah. Awesome. So operational challenges in the stabilization phase, what are some of the key ones you would note in the stabilization phase that maybe you don't or didn't anticipate going in?
Operational challenges, leasing is tough during stabilization because it's tough to balance keeping the property occupied and getting maximum rents. Just portfolio wide as a baseline, we're really looking to keep our units occupied, except when we're, fully 100% occupied. Like once we get above 95%, then that's the point where it's like, okay, we probably want to start, inching up our rents and pushing them a little bit, because that's the point where I feel like, okay, we might be leaving a little bit on the table, but in general, we want all of our units to be under market rent. Like we want there to be a strong perceived value that, our property is under market. We're delivering more than what the rest of the marketplace is delivering. And so, that's a tricky balance for sure.
Yeah, I'll throw something in, operational challenges. I never knew how many appliances would have challenges, just in terms of units. I was impressed with, I guess there's a lot of appliances per unit that things can go wrong with. That is one where it's an expense that is tough, but obviously it needs to be working right and working well for the tenants. But that was one I didn't foresee stepping into the role. Yeah. Well, I have one final question for you, and you answered it a little bit, but talking about a property being truly stabilized, what does that measure? How do you know we've gotten there?
I mean, I would say that the project timeline, or the projects are complete, is a key indicator, and that and maybe it's not like every unit has been renovated, but as far as like exterior projects go, and then we're reaching that level of like 90% vacancy, or sorry, 90% occupancy. 90%.
Oh, please go.
Yeah. Well, we're getting one at 100% right now, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, once we kind of reach that like level of 90% occupancy, and then also the refinance, if we're on bridge debt and then we refinance the property, I would say that we're much further along in the stabilization phase than and the thing is we have to be too. If we're refinanced, like at that point, it's our job to start returning funds to investors, and because we have done the work that has received that asset valuation, and any more work that we do, yeah, maybe that's going to increase the asset valuation, but that money is going to be locked up until we sell the property. And I mean, essentially every dollar that we keep, we want to be able to pay an investor $2.50 or $3. And a lot of times it's a lot harder to do that after you've given it the property its initial push. You've forced the appreciation up, you've gotten your new valuation, and you've got your new leverage. I feel like the highest and best use of any extra dollars is to return it to investors, pay down the capital accounts as much as we possibly can, and then they can go seek new investment returns, where there's a new opportunity, that there can be some forced appreciation, or even, just wherever those investment dollars are going to go. Like just having it sit in our operating account is not the best situation. But if we do have more projects that has to get done, then we got to do them.
Yep.
So
that's great. Well, thank you for taking us through acquisition and stabilization phase, some key aspects and the fun aspects of the process, and hopefully y'all took away something.
Yeah, and let me put you on spot a little bit.
Okay,
so,
perfect.
When it comes to acquisition, can you simplify the process and just try, from your perspective, what are the 3 keys that you feel like you need to know, and then the people on your team, like your broker, your property manager, your contractor, what are the 3 things that everyone on the team needs to know you're trying to do that need to be really well communicated, or, 3 or 5 things, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, after the property's been acquired,
No, prior to acquisition.
prior to acquisition, okay. I mean, I think the key things and that I've observed and I see within my deals is you gotta get a deal at the right price. That's number one. I mean, ideally, you're getting below market value, and you see potential value to add. And I think you did a great job talking about it, but that plan is already in mind prior to the acquisition. And that plan can change maybe slightly after acquisition, but you have an idea how you're going to improve that space.
So value add plan.
Yeah,
Number one is you're buying a property with a problem and you're coming into it with a value add plan. So communicating that value add plan is important to your broker, your property manager, and your contractor, that, everyone is kind of aware that, this is the plan.
yeah. And having the end in mind, right? So broker, I mean, they want to close the deal. So, they're going to want to make the deal
They'll say
happen.
anything to get their commission.
Yeah, but hey, they may be at the back end as well, right? To sell the deal. So with them having that end in mind is good. But once it's acquired, sharing with the team what is going to happen
Prior to it being acquired.
prior to it being acquired, and when it's acquired is, within,
Saying it again after it's acquired, yes.
yes.
Sometimes you have to say things twice or 7 times.
And mentioning what is going to be done to the property, because having leasing agents, maintenance technicians, everyone know kind of what is going to happen later is helpful to get to that.
I guess
end
there's
point.
another stakeholder here that we didn't mention, and the residents of the property too.
Yeah.
A lot of times I've been able to have conversations about what's gonna happen at the property with the current tenants, and, they genuinely appreciate it,
Mhm.
knowing, that there is gonna be change, as opposed to just doing it without saying anything.
Yeah, and I've had a conversation with a tenant and he apologized to me. He apologized to me because he mentioned that there was water issues at the property. And I said we were having someone out tomorrow to fix that. And we put in over 300 feet of water mitigation and just drain piping at the property. And I came back a few days later and he said, I wanted to apologize to you. I didn't think you all were going to actually do something with this. And I just am really impressed that you all took action and you said what you're going to. You said
Did what you said you were gonna do.
So
You had integrity.
yeah, and so I think, when we do communicate those things that are being done to our tenants, there is positive impact. And I think we've also taken that to ask our tenants what they potentially see at the property, because they've sometimes been there for quite a while and have an idea what would
All right,
potentially
so
improve.
number one, prior to acquisition and post-acquisition, is communicate the value add plan.
Yes,
Okay, what's number 2?
I mean, that's where I feel like I spend all the time. Then, I mean, I think it's staying on top of the schedule and moving things forward.
Okay,
And-
so two is having a schedule.
Yes, having a schedule, executing the schedule. And then 3, I think, breathing a sigh of relief when you get to the stabilized phase. That's what I'm looking forward to in some of these properties. It's getting to that point.
So I feel like 3, you talk about this stabilized phase like it's the end of the rainbow. And, I would say 3, so prior to acquisition, is setting some targets. And so putting a stake in the ground and like, hey, at acquisition, we underwrote this deal for this amount of rents and this amount of expenses. And then through your leasing, try to hit those numbers or exceed those numbers. And then when you do, acknowledge and understand that, and also communicate that to your property manager, to your construction team, and to your broker, because broker's going to want to know, because they'll always be very interested about when they get to list your property.
When it comes back around. Thank you for summarizing my thoughts there, Chris. I appreciate it.
Okay, and then, I mean, these two might smush together for
Yeah.
acquisition and stabilization, because you want to come up with a plan prior, and then you want to execute the plan. So we talked about creating a schedule, like that schedule gets created during the acquisition stage, but then it gets executed during the stabilization phase. And I mean, property management and the team is going to want to know that schedule, and they're going to want to know what your targets are, because then they're able to keep score, and that helps. People want to know if they're doing a good job.
Yeah. They want to know what's going on too. I think, one of the things we come in full circle back to the beginning is talking about these phases has been super helpful for our property management team to understand where we're at, our goals, and continue to communicate, because I think I don't know who said this quote, so forgive me, but you tire your message far before people start hearing it.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well,
With that quote from someone,
we nailed it. Thanks, Sean.
thank you.
All right.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Real Estate Professionals Investing Podcast on WIN, your community of investing knowledge for growth. We hope that this episode has increased your knowledge and added value to your path to freedom. If you would, please take a second to rate us so that we can get more great investors to interview. If you or someone that you know wants to be on, please visit westsideinvestors.com and fill out our form to be on the show. Thank you again, and enjoy your day.